Hi everyone out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to part 2 of Inverts Fiberglassing technique. I put the flaps inside the house overnight since the heater cut off the other night. Let them cure. They're fully cured. You can see not much difference. It's a little bit more of a foggier color, I guess you could call it. And here at the tip you can see I started peeling the peel ply away from it. So what we'll do is now just take your part, grab the polyester cloth and start pulling away. With this 3/4 ounce cloth, the peel ply is actually pulling some of the loose fibers from the edges away as well. So we'll just keep peeling that off. And there you go, that's the fully fiberglass part. You can see here at the tip where I started to peel it away on there first, and it actually started peeling the fiberglass off the part. I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. Super simple trick, works really well. But you can also hear the sound that it has. And you also notice that it has no sheen or shine to it whatsoever. It's a completely dull part. You can see on the previous video where we had that little piece of trash, you can see a nice little white bump right there. I'll show you how to fix that as well. You'll probably, most likely will end up sanding through that as we knock the little bit of a roughness off this. But basically, that part is now ready for paint on that side. So let me show you how to fix this little imperfection here, and we'll get back to work. First thing you'll need is just some regular old thin CA. Nothing special. And you'll need a Ziploc baggie, saran wrap, just something to put inside your finger. So what I do is I've got a little just regular Ziploc baggie here that I have laying around the shop. Thin CA. Take your finger, put it inside the baggie and hold it. Then just take I get the bottle open. Take some thin CA, dab it on the imperfection. Then while it's still wet, just take your finger and rub it. And just keep rubbing it. You don't want to let your finger stop, because if it stops, the baggie will get glued to the part. So just keep rubbing, and as the CA cures, you'll feel it kind of start taking some resistance, like it's trying to glue itself. Just keep rubbing it for a few seconds after that. When you're done, there you go. The imperfection's gone. Actually, you just put thin CA and you saturated the cloth and you just glued it right back down to the part. So that is the polyester peel ply method. For those guys who've never seen the fiberglassing trick done, to get rid of the excess cloth around the edges, just take a sanding bar with some whatever grit paper you want. Typically with 3/4 ounce cloth I use 180 or 220. Just hit it a couple of times, swipes on the sides, and you see it just cuts right through the glass. Sometimes where you have a little bit more resin, you gotta peel it away. I try not to cut through it completely and end up sanding through the actual glass in the part. I just want to kind of put a little spot on it so the glass kind of cuts itself away. Do that to all your sides and your edges. Typically, the better you sand through it, the easier the glass comes off. You notice I kind of started at an angle and then rounded around it. You do the same thing just like you would on the sanding the excess off on the leading edge of a wing or a horizontal stab or any curved part. Then go around it one last time, kind of at an angle, just to get rid of those last few little extra strands that are laying around. But there you go. That is one side of the flap done. So with the last video I did both flaps basically in really less than 20 minutes if you take away the time to set up for the video and tell y'all how to do all this. Fix imperfections. That part's now ready for paint. So total time, if I would have let this cure without the heat going off in the shop, you're looking at about 4 hours for one flap, and that includes about 3 hours for it to dry. So then we'll take the other flap, See, I already started peeling the peel ply away. And we'll just start ripping it off, just like the last one. And just show you on that one, you can see where there's a little ridge. I'm not sure if it was in the peel ply or the actual glass, but you can see the ridge going right down through there. And you can actually see a couple of spots where the peel ply didn't touch the cloth, so that ridge is most likely just folds in the cloth from when they folded it up for the packaging. A couple little imperfections here that we can fix with our little finger in the baggie and thin CA trick. And you'll also see if I can't get it in the camera here for you guys. There's one little spot right there. You can see it's kind of a little bit shinier and it's dull all around it. That just happens to be an area where there wasn't as much resin as everywhere else. So it's just a little crater. So actually when you spray your first thing of primer on there, it'll fill that crater in, and then you'll sand all of this off and that crater will still have a little bit of paint in there to it. So that's how you can tell if there was a starved area of resin. See, there's one or two more right here. Another little imperfection where the glass didn't get stuck down all the way. So we'll do our little finger in the baggie and CA trick on those as well. So again, just a little small drop of thin CA. Doesn't really take very much. Just a little bit more on that one. My bottle's a little full of crustiness to it. Now when you do this, you will have to sand on this little spot a little bit more because it does build it up just a tiny bit, but not too much. Little spot there. Rub that through, and I'll just go right over to that one that was closer to it as well. That one needs a little bit more. Just another little small dab. Rub it in there till it dries. Typically, the smaller the part is, the more difficult it is to get a really nice uniform surface to it. These flaps are really difficult because the plywood's so thin, and like the glass is really long and narrow as well. So it's always wanting to move around. So we'll take our sanding bar. And we'll knock through this glass area a little bit. A bit more down on this end. Doesn't take much. Typically the heavier ounce cloth you're using, the grittier the paper you'll want to use. Stuff for like 6 ounce, I try and use, for 6 ounce glass cloth, I'll use 80 grit paper on a sanding block as well. Or one of the foam sanding sponges you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or your local hardware store. And see, it doesn't take much to cut through that 3/4 ounce cloth. Then another thing I do just before paint is I'll take the 180 and just run over it. You hear how it kind of has I call it a shark skin texture to it. It kind of sounds like a zipper as you're going over it. You don't want to hit it much. You just want to kind of knock a little bit of that zippery sound off of it. And there you can see there's a few high spots and low spots on it. Kind of typical with a flat with plywood skins this thin. I could have used G10, Garolite sheet or fiberglass sheet, G10 sheet, whatever you want to call it, for these skins. But I had the plywood on hand. It was a lot cheaper, and just again, it was there when I was ready to build the flap, so that's what I used. So I'll knock this one down. This one I'll sand on a little bit more, mostly because it had that little bit of a ridge to it. I won't sand on it a lot, just enough to knock that ridge the majority of the way down. So there we go. The ridges, you can see a couple of spots of it right through there. You can still see how it goes right down through there. When I get some primer on there and sand it down and fill in what small imperfections are there, it'll disappear. And once your polyester cloth is used, you'll see you can't feel it through the video obviously, but it's got a nice smooth morso texture. It almost feels like plastic, like saran wrap, compared to up here where it's not used. It's nice and pliable. Here it's still pliable, but you can hear it there compared to the difference in sound. That's unused, that's used. So once you use it once, it's trash. That's why I say just go to Home Depot or Walmart or any local fabric store and just buy the cheapest stuff you can get. Alright, a gentleman on RC Universe, I believe, asked me, how do you go about filling in open areas like this? Well, my original plan was I was just going to leave it just like you see it, not fiberglass it, and then just seal it with some sort of either thin down epoxy or a sanding sealer. But since somebody asked, I'll go about and I'll show you how to do it, because there are some areas where you'll get to where they're open. The full scale on the Focke-Wulf 190, these bays are all open. This is all aluminum structure. Most of the time, if you have an open area, you don't fiberglass it, or you have to cut them out for like servo openings or gear door openings or so. But same thing for here. Like if you have an opening, say this is an open structure, all this area, if you fiberglass it, you're gonna have a lot of pinholes. In order to fill it, you're gonna have to put a lot of filler in there, and then it's gonna get heavy. It's gonna get difficult, so it's not gonna move like a fabric structure. So if you have something that you're wanting to fiberglass that has open structure, make sure you put some sort of Century 21 fabric or SIG coverall or something over it. You just really can't fiberglass over an open structure and make it look good without being extremely heavy. But if you want to replicate a fabric structure, when you get to you sheet over this entire area. Say if this is like a fabric covered aileron, you can sheet over it, and then once you fiberglass it, you lay your primer down. You can actually go through there and make a little tape pattern and just sand the primer away from it in the middle, so it kind of like dishes down into it. And then once you paint it, you'll see these little scallops between like a wing rib or some sort of rib or a bulkhead or whatever. So it'll give the impression of a fabric covered surface, but it's actually solid and fiberglass and painted. One way to doing it, there's probably 3 or 4 or who knows how many more, probably as many different ways to do it as there are modelers in the hobby. So just to kind of give you all an idea, same thing, same epoxy, the scale, smaller cup because we're going to be glassing a much smaller area, smaller brush because we have smaller area of course. So we'll start out and I'll start working on that area for you. Again, I already pre-cut the fiberglass cloth and the polyester peel ply. So we'll start out, we'll mix 9 grams of resin total. We'll put 9 grams of resin and 3 grams of hardener. So we'll have 12 grams total. And I'm mixing a little bit more than I probably actually use, and I'll show you why once I get there. There's 9 grams of resin. Three grams of hardener. Now notice in the last video when I showed you how thin this stuff was, I missed the lens. So you saw my hands, but you didn't really see how thin the stuff was. So I'll show you again in this video. Alright, so here we got it mixed up, and you see it's nice and watery thin, and it's about 64 degrees here in the shop. So I've actually found the colder this stuff is, for some reason, the thinner it is. So it's kind of a slightly odd for some reason, but that's what I found. Alright, we'll start off here with the leading edge. You'll see the little notch here that I'm working on the inside, or the right side of it, for the control horn. I'm putting it on fairly thin, just because you don't want to get a lot of epoxy around here, because then it's going to droop down inside. You'll get drips on the inside that you got to sand out, and it'll just make kind of the inside of the flap. It'll make the quality of the product look a little worse than it actually should be. So, and plus it's just extra weight, and we all want to build the lightest airplanes we can. There's the leading edge, and these are just regular acid drip brushes. I think you can get about 100 of these from Harbor Freight for under $5 or so. Again, place is awesome for these consumable tools and brushes and drill bits. I've got a set of their titanium nitride drill bits I've had for 5 years, and pretty much all the ones that I use the most are the only ones I've ever had to replace. I actually used those drill bits to build a all-metal BD5. Actually, 3 of them. So, good drill bits. Some guys like their stuff, some guys don't. Personally, I haven't had any problem out of it. I've got one of their drill bits, or one of their drill presses, and a small 30-inch belt sander as well. That all works out great. For the price, you can't beat their stuff. Alright, now that I got that done, put it over here on the edge, and I will move the camera and zoom in for you guys so you get a little bit better view of what I'm doing. Alright, we'll take our fiberglass cloth that I cut. Again, I use that fabric rotary cutter from Walmart, wherever, because it leaves a really nice edge. You can see here on the cloth, this side is all frayed, and that side is nice and smooth for now. So we'll take the cloth, and we'll lay that nice, straight, smooth edge that's not frayed, and kind of have it overhang the front a little bit. Then I'll just take the acid brush, and I will push it down on the leading edge to get it where I want it. We'll pull the backside here, because I'm trying to get that straight edge as close to the leading edge of the flap as possible. And with this open area, it doesn't really leave a lot of room. It's not really feasible in order for you to use your spreader. So you want to put enough epoxy that it fully saturates the cloth, but not so much where you have to scrape a lot of it off. And if you do have to put more on there, it's better to use the brush and just put a little on the tip of it and dab it on. In the areas that are stuck down really nice, with the amount of epoxy that's already on there, you can brush very, very lightly with it. You don't want to brush towards it one direction, though. You want to brush kind of 90 degrees, or the parallel to the long side of it. And pretty much everything from here on is just a repeat of video 1. At least until we get to part 3, which I wasn't expecting to make. But if you guys have more questions, and I've got stuff to fiberglass and the materials, and I'm available and not working, just keep on going, and I'll keep asking, and I'll make as many videos as you guys want, and I have time to. Alright, now with the peel ply, I'm actually not going to take it all the way to the front where the cloth was. So I'm just going to take it just about midway down the leading edge of the part and lay it across. The reason why I'm not taking it all the way down to the edge of the cloth is that way it doesn't try and peel the fiberglass off the flap. And since this little area that it's not going to cover is very small, and you can't see it once the flap's installed on the airplane, you'll never know that the finish up under is slightly different than the rest of the flap. So again, just going to use the acid brush. It's pretty much dry of resin right now, so I'm just going to use it to brush the peel ply onto the flap. Alright, there's one flap, fiberglass, and ready to dry. So I'm gonna cut this video off right here. I'm gonna finish up the other one, and then I'll start it up with part 2 of part 2. So we'll see you guys in a few minutes.